Okay, first things first, Toxin better be in this movie. He was teased at the end of the last movie. He was teased in the trailer, so the chances are incredibly high, but you never know if Sony will just like pull the rug out from under us for fun. It would also be fun to see Toxin because he's really cool, and if Venom was scared of his own offspring, Carnage, how is he going to feel about what is probably Carnage's offspring? We will see how much inspiration the movie takes from the comics, but in the comics, Toxin is the 1000th sim in his lineage. He is considered the most dangerous sim kind of around and did bond with Mulligan, so that's the same between the comics and the movie. What is different though is Carnage fights Toxin, and it's implied that Carnage is done for in the second movie. He could be brought back, you never know. Toxin, like Venom, learns to be a good guy from being partnered with a host that wants to be a good guy. Will they keep that for the movies? I hope so, because Mulligan seems like a pretty good guy. I want Anti-Venom in the movie because I feel like the people of Earth just like deserve to have a couple major diseases cured after what they are going to go through in that movie. I think it would help rebalance population levels if the images in the trailer are anything to infer from. Anti-Venom in the comics has the kind of story that might be tough to fit in a movie, but I would love to see them try. Eddie and Venom were separated, but there was still some traces of Venom left in Eddie's body because, think about it, of course there were. Those traces went pretty much undetected. They weren't really bothering Eddie. What did end up bothering Eddie was cancer. He developed cancer and went to see Martin Lee to get it cured. Now, who is Martin Lee? Lee is the good alter ego of Mr. Negative, a supervillain that has a healing touch. That healing touch accidentally caused the remains of Venom and Eddie to fuse with his white blood cells, and then we got Anti-Venom. He is not like other Sims, he is mindless, so Eddie takes the wheel. Anti-Venom is also a healing Sim. He produces antibodies that cure diseases, and I think the people of Earth deserve that. They have been through a lot. I have absolutely no idea how they would bring Anti-Venom into the Venomverse, but that's not my problem. The writers can figure that one out. What I could figure out for the writers is how to bring in Flexo. I think Flexo would fit into the Venom movies just fine, but maybe not as like a character. In the trailers for the new movie, we see some interesting facilities, some named, some unnamed. I think it would be cool if one of them just like happened to be Area 51 or adjacent to that, like Eddie mentioned in the second movie, and in Area 51, Flexo is there, or there is info about Flexo there. Flexo was a sim that appeared in the 1940s. He was a blob found in a meteor by the Williams brothers. They were scientists, which was convenient, and they initially thought that Flexo was just like a living rubber, so they fashioned the blob into a robot-looking remote-controlled hero. I know what you're thinking though. Doesn't a sim need a living host? I was also confused about this, but it turns out that some don't actually need to attach to a person. They can just exist on their own, and attaching to a host is just more convenient and would make them more powerful. So I think it would be interesting in the Venomverse for Eddie to end up in like Area 51 or a facility for whatever reason and learn the government has been covering up Sims on Earth since the 40s. Plus, Flexo is a little goofy guy, just a bit, and the Venom movies kind of lean into comedic aspects, so Flexo wouldn't be too out of the ordinary. Keeping with a similar theme, they could bring in Tyrannosaurus in a similar way. Tyrannosaurus was a sim extracted from the dragon sim Grendel, who we will get to, and attached to a soldier named Rex Strickland during the Vietnam War. Rex wasn't the only soldier subject to doing this. There was a whole program called the Sim Soldier Program. T-Rex was briefly under the influence of Null and was being very evil, but then he had a run-in with Wolverine. That resulted in the sim being separated from Rex for a moment and attached to Logan, then separated from him and back in Rex. All that did was help the sim realize that they wanted to be better. They were inspired by the inherent goodness and the want to do the right thing that Rex and Logan had. Rex eventually did pass, but the sim was able to take his form and live like he were Rex the human. Venom 3 could either bring in this guy the same way I said with like Flexo, he's a random guy at Area 51, but also we don't know exactly who Chiwetel Ejiofor is playing yet, but he does kind of look like he's in the army. He's got a similar look to the character. Rex did go on a mission in the comics where he was tracking a sim down, which that's what it looks like he's doing in the trailer. It would certainly be a major reveal and a plot twist. I think it would also be cool if they brought in Dylan Brock somehow. In the comics, Dylan Brock is the child of Eddie, Anne, and Venom. Challengers wants what Venom has. Dylan Brock was created kind of Jesus style, and I am being so serious. When Anne bonded with Venom, which happened in the first and second movie, the will of the Sim Hive caused the traces of the living abyss present in her to incarnate into a baby, creating a human-Sim hybrid. Naturally, Anne was traumatized by not only giving birth to Venom Jesus, but also she did some bad things as Venom, so she did put herself 6 feet under due to the trauma of all of that. Currently, it's unclear if Michelle Williams is coming back to the series. I'm going to be honest with y'all, my roommate and I were shocked to see her there in the first place, but if she couldn't come back for the third installment, they could easily write her out using this story and set up Dylan Brock for future projects. Plus, in the trailer, we see a little boy, and who knows who that is. I would also love to see Agony and her siblings, Scream, Phage, Riot, and Lasher. They are the spawns of Venom taken from him forcibly, referred to as seeds. 5 seeds were taken, resulting in 5 new Sims. All the Sims were too young to control a host properly, so they bonded with various Life Foundation employees, becoming the Life Foundation's guardian Sims. It's important to note, though, that Riot already exists in Venom. He was the main villain in the first movie, so that does kind of ruin things for that one, but Sony can always just go from like a group of 5 to a group of 4. One Direction survived that change, so can the Guardians. Agony, specifically, that Sim is able to spit acid, among other things the Sims can normally do. I am going to be honest with y'all, I am putting a particular focus on wanting Agony in the new movie because she is pink. Technically purple, but she looked pink at the start to me, and I just really want to see a pink Sim on the big screen. She is really cool, don't get me wrong, but I'm just a girl. If I had a Sim, I would want it to be pink. Let me know in the comments which color you would want your Sim to be. It's unclear if some of Agony's other siblings have already appeared in Venom but went unnamed. We know Riot was in it, but the other 2 Sims in the movie were simply referred to as Yellow and Blue. Both Scream and Phage have yellow to them. It's unclear who the blue one would be, but they also could just be really random Sims that we don't know yet. However, if Yellow was Scream, then they could easily bring in Silence. It's a loss that we wouldn't get to see Scream in her true form, but we could get a slightly different variation of her. In the comics, when Scream died, a portion of the Sim was taken by this guy, Dr. Steven. He tried to revive Scream, but nothing was working until he combined it with another Sim sample, part of Anti-Venom. The way Anti-Venom is like the opposite of Venom, Silence is the opposite of Scream. She has the powers of Anti-Venom and Scream in one Sim, so that is like all the usual stuff, plus the wings from Scream's side, and then a healing touch from Anti-Venom. The tough part about this is that Anti-Venom needs to exist before Silence can exist, but they might possibly, maybe, have half that battle done if the yellow Sim was in fact Scream. I would love to see Sleeper because he seems really cool and kind of funny. Unique to him is the ability to produce chemicals in liquid or aerosol form from his being. The chemicals can cause a variety of effects like corrosion, tranquilization, messing with emotions, and more. Sleeper is also able to kind of make himself like a ghost. He can release pheromones that mask his presence from other Sims. He's also one of the only Sims that hasn't taken after the spider suit. Most Sims, they have those big eyes that look like the Spider-Man mask, but not Sleeper. He's special and different. If they do bring Sleeper in, or even a new Sim with qualities like Sleeper, they will probably have to change his origin story. I just don't think, as a society, we are ready to watch something like that on the big screen. I wasn't ready to read it on a comic page. Should Sleeper ever make his debut, how he comes into the world of Venom will probably look very different. Sleeper is the 7th spawn of Venom, likely triggered into existence by the Grendel Sim awakening. At least that is the maker's theory. Speaking of Grendel though, I would love to see a Sim dragon on the big screen. Truly, I think that would be like the coolest thing ever should the CGI be good, assuming they use CGI and don't just get a real dragon. Grendel would be one of the toughest foes Venom would ever face since he was directly created by Null as a Sim dragon. That gives him way more power and also sheer size and the ability to fly at hypersonic speeds. Plus, since he is a dragon, he has massive claws, massive fangs, and all the tendrils scoundrels that we sometimes see Venom use. Grendel can and will reanimate corpses, which he did with Cletus. If I were Woody Harrelson and I was told that they could write me back into the movies as a dragon-possessed person, my answer would be yes. I don't care if the last movie was a flop. Grendel is one of the 2 dragons created by Null. The other was called Big Mother, and that one was made from Null's blood. Both went to Earth together and created a lair behind a waterfall in Denmark. Sounds beautiful. They of course started terrorizing the planet though, because what else would they do? While doing that, they were mistaken for the dark elf, Grendel, and his mother, which is how they got their names. Maybe a slightly more realistic addition to the Venomverse though, but still just as cool as a dragon, would be a cyborg sim. In the comics, this is Scorn. Scorn was created when part of Carnage was experimented on by Michael Hall. He was creating hybrid prosthetic limbs that use sim matter as circuitry, which would make it so the limbs could react to the person's thoughts the way that a limb normally would. A version of this prosthetic was created to replace someone's arm. It went really well at first, and then downhill from there. Carnage seized control of the prosthetic and deposited its spawn, Scorn, into the arm. The 2 things combined and became a cyborg sim. Because this sim is part machine, it can fuse itself with other machines and other weapons, and isn't that just so fun to deal with? Scorn is also able to communicate with all machines, cause machines to crash, exist within technology with no need to take a physical form, manipulate and change data in computers, just a bunch of things that you wouldn't want a single sim to be able to do in today's society that relies so heavily on technology for almost everything we do in our day-to-day life. Chances are you're using some watching this video, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see if Scorn or any of the other sims on this list make the cut for the new movie. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and make your mark on the comments section down below. This is Juliana signing off. Bye!